The Forgotten Promise. The stars above the alien world of Sarilith burned like silver lanterns in the sky, but Lyra never found peace when she looked at them. She always remembered a moment from her childhood, a memory so powerful it followed her every step. It was the day she met a human boy, the day she heard a promise that never left her heart. Years ago, her people were caught in a brutal raid. Enemy ships descended on their village, their weapons destroying homes and burning fields. Lyra had been only a child, hiding in the ruins, terrified. Her family was gone, her people scattered. She believed she would die alone, but then he appeared. A human boy no older than she was, his clothes torn, his face covered in dirt, yet his eyes burned with courage. Humans were rare on Sarilith in those days. Most aliens only whispered about them, saying they were reckless, dangerous, or too bold for their own good. Yet this boy stood before her with a makeshift blade in his hands. His name was Adrian. He fought off the raiders with a wild strength she could never forget. His movements were clumsy but full of determination. He was not strong like a warrior, but he refused to run, and when the danger finally passed, he turned to her, breathless and shaking. "Don't cry," he told her. "I'll come back for you one day. I promise." Those words stayed with her. They burned brighter than the fires that destroyed her home. She never even asked why a human boy was there. All she remembered was the promise. And then, just like that, he was gone. Years passed. The galaxy changed. Humans became something different, stronger, more feared. They built fleets that patrolled the stars. They became the protectors of their allies and the nightmares of their enemies. And yet, for Lyra, humanity was not just a distant power in the sky. To her, humanity was a boy with fire in his eyes, a boy who once promised her he would return. Now, Lyra was no longer a child. She had grown into a young woman, graceful, intelligent, and respected among her people. But her heart carried a shadow. Every night she looked at the stars and wondered if Adrian still lived, if he even remembered her. Her world had not healed. Sarilith was still weak. The Council of Elders argued endlessly about trade and defense. Some feared the humans, some admired them, but none trusted them fully. The galaxy had become dangerous, empires rising and falling, yet her people remained fragile. One quiet night, as she walked across the balcony of her home, she felt the air shift. A sound echoed through the night sky, a low hum that vibrated in her chest. Lyra froze. Her gaze turned upward, and she saw it. A ship, massive and dark, breaking through the clouds of her world. Its shape was unlike any her people owned. Its engines burned blue like the heart of a star. The alarms of the city began to ring. The council guards shouted for civilians to hide. Fear spread across the streets. Some thought it was an invasion. Others believed it was a raid like the one from her childhood. But Lyra's heart pounded differently. Deep inside, she felt something strange, familiar. It was not fear that filled her. It was hope. She ran to the edge of the balcony, her eyes locked on the ship. Her hands trembled, her chest rising and falling with each breath. Could it be him? Could it be the boy from long ago, now grown, now powerful, returning at last? Her mind told her it was impossible. Humans were far away, powerful and unreachable. Why would one come to Sarilith after so many years? Yet her heart whispered something else. The ship hovered above the city with silent authority. Its light scanned the ground as if searching for something. The people shouted. The council guards aimed their weapons toward the sky. But Lyra could not move. Her legs shook, her breath caught in her throat. She remembered his face, his voice, his words. "I'll come back for you." And now, standing under the shadow of that massive human ship, she felt the past collide with the present. Was the forgotten promise about to be remembered? Or was she only chasing a dream that never truly belonged to her? The human returns. The massive ship above Sarilith hovered like a silent predator, its engines humming with restrained power. The people below panicked, rushing through the narrow streets as the alarm bells rang. Yet Lyra stood frozen, her eyes wide, her breath short. For everyone else it was a threat, but for her it was something far deeper. The council guards shouted orders. "To the shelters, hurry!" they cried, but Lyra could not move. She could not take her eyes off the sleek human vessel in the sky. The symbol of Earth glowed faintly on its side, a mark feared and respected across the galaxy. The ship's ramp began to descend. A wave of silence spread across the city as the figure emerged. A man stepped forward, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing the dark uniform of the human fleet. His eyes scanned the crowd, sharp and commanding. Every alien nearby shrank back in fear, whispers spreading like fire. A human is here." But Lyra's heart raced for another reason. The man's face older, scarred yet unmistakable. She knew him. She would have known him anywhere. Adrian. She staggered back, her hand clutching her chest. Memories of the boy she had once met flooded her mind. Could this truly be him? The child who had once stood trembling but brave, promising he would return. Now a commander, a man who carried the weight of stars in his gaze, the council of elders gathered in the square, their voices trembling with both authority and fear. One elder stepped forward, his robes trailing behind him. "Why have you come here, human?" he demanded. "Sarilith does not seek Earth's shadow. You will bring war upon us if you stay." Adrian's expression was calm, but his voice carried strength. "War is already coming, Elder. I am not here to harm you. I am here to protect, to honor a promise." Those words struck Lyra like a blade of light, her breath caught. Did he mean her? Did he remember? The crowd murmured nervously. "Protect us? Humans protect no one. They protect only themselves." Others whispered. Some spat on the ground, still holding old hatred. But the young among them stared with a mix of fear and awe. Adrian's eyes scanned the gathered faces, and for one long moment they locked with Lyra's. Her body went rigid. The noise around her faded, the crowd disappeared. It was as if the years had fallen away, as if they were back in that ruined village where a boy once said he would return. Recognition flickered in his eyes. He froze. Only for a second, but it was enough. The corner of his mouth lifted, the faintest trace of a smile that only she could see. Lyra's knees weakened. She gripped the edge of a railing, trying not to collapse, he remembered. He truly remembered, but the elders were not moved. "Your presence here will draw enemies." Another elder shouted, "You humans cannot be trusted. You bring fire wherever you go." Adrian's jaw tightened. "The fire is already near, Elder. Whether you accept it or not, your world is marked. The enemy empire marches across the sector and they will strike you next." Earth made a promise long ago that we do not abandon those we stand with. The council erupted in angry whispers. Some denied his words, others feared they might be true, but Lyra stepped forward, her voice trembling yet strong. "Elders, listen. This man speaks the truth. You know the rumors. You know the signs in the stars. If he says war is coming, then it is already upon us," the crowd gasped. Many turned their eyes on her with suspicion, some with anger. She was young, and to stand against the council was dangerous, but she did not care. Her heart told her what her people refused to see. Adrian's gaze softened when he looked at her, though his words remained sharp as steel for the council. "I do not seek your permission, elders. Earth's fleet is already moving. If you will not stand with us, then we will stand alone, but I made a promise and I intend to keep it." The elders recoiled at his defiance, yet none dared step forward against him. The presence of a human commander carried a weight beyond words. Lyra stared at him, her chest heavy. A storm of emotions filled her. Fear, hope, disbelief, and joy. For years she had clung to the memory of a boy's promise, and now standing before her, that boy had returned as a man, but with him came danger. She knew it in her bones. The promise was real, but so was the shadow of war, and as the human commander turned back toward his ship, his eyes meeting hers, once more she understood that her life, her people, and perhaps the galaxy itself were about to change forever. The council's threat. The council chamber was lit by pale blue crystals that lined the tall walls, casting long shadows across the stone floor. Elders in their heavy robes sat in a circle, their faces drawn with tension. The air was thick with Unease outside. The streets of Sarilith buzzed with whispers of the human who had returned. Some called him a savior, others a curse. Lyra stood near the back of the chamber, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Her heart was racing, but her eyes stayed fixed on Adrian, who stood at the center of the room. His dark uniform made him look like a figure carved from iron. He faced the elders with calm, but Lyra could sense the fire burning beneath his composed expression. One of the oldest elders, his skin marked with lines of age and authority, leaned forward on his staff, his voice cracked but sharp. "Human commander, you speak of promises, of protection, but your kind are storms. You arrive with fire and leave only ashes behind. Why should we believe your words?" Adrian's jaw tightened. He raised his head, his voice steady. "Because I do not offer words, I offer truth. Your world is in danger. The enemy empire moves closer every day. They do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. When they come, your walls will not hold. And I made a promise long ago, a promise I will not break." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some elders shook their heads. Others exchanged nervous glances. Lyra stepped forward, unable to stay silent. "Elders, listen. We cannot ignore this. You have all seen the signs, the fleets disappearing near the border, the strange signals in the void. If he says danger is coming, then we must prepare." "Silence," snapped another elder, his eyes narrowing at her. "You dare defend him? You dare trust a human? Your words betray your people, child." Lyra flinched, but she did not back down. Her voice wavered but carried strength. "I do not betray my people, I fight for them. If we turn him away, if we reject his warning, we will be blind when the enemy arrives." The elder slammed his staff to the floor, the sound echoing through the chamber. "Enough. You have been touched by human lies. That boy's promise poisoned your heart, and now you bring his shadow into this room." Lyra froze, shock spreading through her chest. They knew. They had always known of her memory, the boy she clung to. She lowered her gaze, feeling the weight of their judgment. Yet Adrian's voice cut through the silence, sharp and unyielding. "Do not punish her for remembering what you have forgotten," he said. "Once, Sarilith stood proud, strong, unafraid of shadows. Now you cower behind words and counsels while your enemies sharpen their blades. This girl sees what you will not, and that is why she has more courage than the rest of you combined." Gasps spread across the chamber. Some elders rose in anger, their robes swirling as they shouted, "Arrogant human, you dare insult this council. You bring only war." But Adrian did not step back. His voice carried like thunder. "War is already coming. The question is not if you will fight, but if you will survive. Humanity has faced empires greater than yours. We stood when others fell. We kept our word, even when it cost us blood. And I will keep it again, whether you stand with me or against me." The chamber went silent. Every elder stared at him, weighing his words, the fire in his eyes, the strength in his tone. It was undeniable. Still, one elder leaned forward, his voice dripping with suspicion. "Why us? Why Sarilith? Why would humanity care for our small world when greater battles rage across the stars?" Adrian's gaze shifted, for the first time softening. His eyes flicked to Lyra just for a heartbeat, then he answered, "Because once, a promise was made, and humanity does not forget its promises." Lyra's breath caught, her chest tightened. For a moment she could not move. Could it be true? Could all of this, the return of his ship, the defiance in his voice, all trace back to that single moment from her childhood? But the council was unmoved, their fear twisted into hostility. The eldest elder rose, his voice booming, "Enough. If you remain here, human, you will bring destruction to us. If you care for this girl, if you care for our people, then leave. Take your promises and go back to your earth. We will not bow to your shadow." The guards stepped forward, their weapons drawn. The chamber filled with tension. Lyra's heart pounded in her ears. She wanted to scream, to beg them to stop, but her voice caught in her throat. Adrian did not flinch. His hand hovered near his weapon, but he did not draw it. His eyes burned as he stared at the elders. You mistake protection for conquest. You mistake loyalty for chains. If you turn me away, then so be it. But know this, when the enemy comes, it will not be my shadow you fear. It will be theirs. With that, he turned sharply, his cloak swirling behind him as he strode toward the exit. The guards hesitated, uncertain. None dared touch him. The weight of his presence was too heavy. Lyra's heart ached as she watched him walk away. She wanted to run after him to call his name, but the eyes of the council burned against her back. She could only stand trembling as his figure disappeared through the doors. In that moment, she realized the truth. The council would never accept him. They were too afraid, too blind. And so the promise that once gave her hope had now placed her at the edge of danger. For if the enemy truly was coming, and if Adrian's words were true, then Saarlith would soon face fire unlike anything it had ever known. And she, caught between loyalty to her people and the bond of a forgotten promise, would be forced to choose a side. Shadows of war. The days after Adrian's departure weighed heavily on Saarlith. The council declared the human a threat. They spread words of caution, telling the people to trust only in their own defenses. But Lyra could see the fear in their eyes. No matter how loud the elders spoke, the truth lingered like a storm on the horizon. Whispers filled the streets. Merchants argued in the market about human ships spotted in nearby systems. Farmers muttered about strange lights seen in the sky at night. Some believed Adrian was right. Others clung to the council's denial. But in every home, in every heart, unease grew stronger. Lyra spent her nights staring at the stars from her balcony, her mind never resting. She replayed Adrian's words again and again, his voice, strong and certain, promising protection, warning, of an empire that would soon strike. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to hold on to the memory of his promise, but what if he was wrong? What if believing in him brought ruin to her people? One evening, as the twin moons rose over the horizon, Lyra's friend Kyle visited her. He was a guard of the council, loyal and stern. His dark armor reflected the moonlight as he approached her home. You must let go of him, Kyle said quietly. The council sees your words as dangerous. They will not forgive your defense of the human. Lyra looked away, her voice soft but firm. How can I let go when everything he said feels true, Kyle? You saw his eyes. You heard his warning. Do you not feel it too? Kyle sighed, lowering his gaze. I feel fear, Lyra. Fear that if he is right, then we are doomed. And fear that if he is wrong, then your heart will destroy you. His words stung, but they carried truth. Lyra did not answer. Her chest tightened, and she only returned her gaze to the sky. That very night, the skies trembled. A faint light streaked across the heavens. Not like a shooting star, but like the burning trail of engines. The city stirred as watchers on the walls shouted, "Ships! Unknown ships approaching!" The alarm bells rang once more. Lyra rushed to the high walls of the city. Her heart pounded as she saw them, dark shapes moving against the stars. Their design was jagged, cruel, unlike the smooth lines of human vessels. A chill gripped her bones. The council gathered quickly, the elders shouting commands. Raise the shields, call the militia, prepare for defense. Their voices echoed across the chambers, but their faces betrayed panic. They had never expected the danger to come so soon. The enemy ships did not attack immediately. Instead, they hovered at the edge of the atmosphere, silent and watching. Like wolves circling their prey, their presence was enough to strike terror into the hearts of the people. Lyra clenched her fists, her mind racing. Adrian was right, she whispered to herself. The memory of his words burned inside her. War is already coming, but the council still resisted. We will not call for human help, one elder barked. This is a test of our strength. We must stand alone. The younger council members argued, their voices breaking with fear. We cannot stand against them. Our fleets are small, our weapons weak. We need allies. The chamber erupted into chaos, but no decision was made. Pride and fear strangled reason, and outside the enemy fleet remained patient and unshaken. That night the city lay under a heavy silence. Families hid in their homes, Guards patrolled the streets with pale faces, and the children cried at the sight of the black ships in the sky. Lyra could not sleep. She wandered the empty streets until she reached the highest tower of the city. From there, she saw the vast shadow of the enemy fleet, cold and endless. A wave of dread washed over her, but beneath it, a spark of determination burned. She remembered Adrian's words again. Once, Sarilith stood proud. Now you cower. His voice echoed in her mind. He had seen their weakness, but he had also seen her courage. And then, a sound broke through the night. A new hum filled the air, deep and powerful. Lyra's heart leapt. Her eyes darted to the horizon, and there, it was a fleet of ships entering the system, their engines burning blue, their formation tight, their presence overwhelming. The people rushed from their homes, pointing to the sky. Another fleet, they cried. Who are they? Lyra's breath caught in her throat, her eyes filled with tears. She knew the shape of those ships, the smooth design, the blue engines. It was Earth's fleet. Adrian had returned, not with words but with fire and steel. The enemy ships shifted in the sky, their formation breaking slightly as they adjusted to the arrival of the humans. The silence of the night was shattered by the weight of what was about to begin. The council, panicked, shouting over one another. We must warn them, we must keep them away, others cried. No, let them fight. But Lyra felt only a surge of relief and fear entwined. He had kept his promise, he had returned, but with him came the shadow of war. She pressed her hands against the stone railing, whispering into the wind. Adrian, you came back. The stars above no longer looked peaceful. They looked like a battlefield waiting to ignite, and Sarilith stood at the heart of it, trembling between destruction and salvation. The first battle, the night sky above Sarilith erupted in light. The enemy ships tightened their formation, their jagged hulls glowing with crimson lines as they powered their weapons. The human fleet, sleek and disciplined, spread across the horizon like a wall of steel. Engines burned blue, weapons charged, and their shadows stretched across the planet's surface. The people of Sarilith gathered in the streets, eyes wide with fear and awe. They had never seen such power. Not from their own fleets, not from any ally. The council shouted for civilians to take shelter, but no voice could silence the thunder building in the sky. Lyra stood at the high tower, her breath short. She could see the enemy's red light reflecting off the shields of the human ships. She felt the tremor in the ground as the first low hum of weapons filled the air. It was about to begin. From the lead human ship, a signal echoed across the system. Adrian's voice, steady and calm. This is Commander Adrian Holt of Earth's fleet. Sarilith is under our protection. Any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. Leave now or be destroyed. The enemy answered not with words but with fire. Crimson beams slashed through the sky, striking at the human ships. The first volley lit the heavens like a storm. The people screamed, believing all hope was lost. But the human fleet did not falter. Shields flared, formations shifted, and then they struck back. Blue lances of energy tore through the night, precise and devastating. Enemy ships exploded in showers of flame, their wreckage burning as it fell through the sky. Lyra's heart raced. Her hands gripped the stone railing as she whispered, "He wasn't lying. He wasn't lying." The power of humanity was no longer a story, no longer a rumor whispered. In fear, it was here, above her world, undeniable. The first wave of enemy ships tried to break the human line. They darted forward fast and sharp, but the human vessels moved as if one mind guided them. They shifted into formation, trapping their foes between overlapping fields of fire. Within moments, 3 enemy ships were torn apart, fragments scattering across the stars. The people below gasped, awe breaking through their fear. Children clung to their parents, whispering, "The humans fight for us." Some still trembled. Others wept, but hope sparked where only dread had lived before. On the council balcony, the elders stared in silence, their words choked in their throats as the truth unfolded before their eyes. One elder whispered, "No fleet fights like that, not even the great empires." Another muttered, "They are predators among prey." Lyra could not look away. Every blast of light burned into her heart. She remembered Adrian's boyish face, the trembling voice that once said, "I'll come back for you." And now she saw him not as a boy, but as the commander of a fleet that could shake the stars. But the enemy was not yet broken. Their main warship, larger and darker than the rest, pushed forward. Weapons glowed across its hull. It unleashed a barrage so fierce the sky itself seemed to split. Human ships flared under the impact. Shields, trembling, a smaller human vessel broke apart, its burning pieces falling like stars. The people cried out, despair returning for a heartbeat. But then, Adrian's voice rang across the comms once more, firm and commanding. "Hold the line. Push forward. Break them." His words carried like fire. The human fleet surged. Every ship moved with perfect timing, weaving through the storm, striking at the enemy with precision. They were not simply fighting. They were hunting. Lyra's heart pounded. Her chest ached with every explosion. But she could see it. The tide was turning. One by one. Enemy. Ships fell, their crimson light fading into the black. And though the great warship still loomed, cracks began to spread across its hull. The humans pressed harder. Adrian's flagship leading the charge. Blue fire rained down upon the enemy vessel. Its shields shattered. Flames erupted from its engines. The giant ship groaned as if the sky itself were breaking. And then with a final strike it exploded in a burst of light that lit the heavens brighter than the moon's. The ground shook with the force. The people screamed again, but this time in wonder. Cheers erupted across the city. The children shouted, "We are saved." The elders stood frozen, unable to deny what they had seen. Lyra collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Her heart overflowed with relief, with awe. With something deeper he had returned not only to her but to her people. His promise had been more than words. It had been destiny. As the battle ended, the last enemy ships scattered, retreating into the void. The human fleet did not chase them. They held their position above Sarilith, guardians in the night. The city, below, erupted in celebration, voices echoing through the streets. But Lyra did not celebrate. She stared at the sky, her lips trembling. She knew this was not the end. This was only the beginning. For if the enemy had come once, they would come again. Stronger, fiercer. And when they did, Sarilith would no longer be able to hide behind the illusion of safety. Her eyes searched the sky, locking onto the lead ship, Adrian's ship. She whispered into the wind, "You kept your promise. But what will it cost you?" The stars above no longer held the peace of dreams. They burned with the fire of war. And Lyra knew that her world and her heart would never be the same again. The reunion, the city of Sarilith glowed with the fires of survival, lanterns lit, the streets. Voices sang in relief, and yet above the cheers there lingered a silence. The people had witnessed a battle beyond their imagination. They had seen the humans fight, unyielding, unbreakable. But when the echoes of celebration faded, fear returned, for everyone knew this was only the first storm. Lyra walked through the streets, her cloak brushing against the stone path. People whispered as she passed. Some called her brave for speaking in the council chamber. Others called her reckless. Yet she ignored their voices. Her heart beat only with one thought, one name: Adrian. At dawn, the human fleet sent word. The commander wished to speak with the council. The elders, stiff with pride and shame, gathered in the chamber once more. Lyra stood among them, her hands trembling. She told herself she must be calm, that she must be strong. But the thought of seeing him again after so many years sent waves of emotion crashing through her chest. The great doors opened and Adrian entered, his uniform still marked with the ash of battle. His presence filled the room like a tide. Every step he took seemed to silence the air. The guards shifted uneasily. The elders fidgeted. But Lyra could not breathe. For a moment his gaze swept across the chamber, cold and sharp. Then it softened when it found her. It was the same look he had given her as a boy, the same spark of recognition. The same unspoken words. The eldest elder stood, his voice heavy. Commander Holt, you came uninvited. You brought war to our skies, and though you won today, your presence threatens us still. Adrian did not bow. His voice carried strength. War came to your skies because your enemies no longer fear you, they fear us. That is why they came now to break you before Earth could act. If I had not come, your world would already be in flames. The chamber buzzed with whispers. The elders were split. Some still clung to pride, others faltered in silence, but Lyra could no longer remain still. She stepped forward, her voice clear. You saved us, Adrian. You kept your word. And still, they doubt you. Her words froze. The chamber. The elders turned to her with anger. Child, silence yourself, one hissed, but Adrian's eyes never left hers. Slowly, he spoke. Lyra, you remember. Her chest ached. She swallowed hard. How could I forget? You promised me. You told me you would come back. Her voice cracked, but she held her ground. The council could scorn her. The people could whisper. But she would not deny the truth. For a long moment, Adrian did not move. Then he stepped closer. His presence towered, but his voice softened. I never forgot either, Lyra. I was just a boy then, but that promise became a part of me. I carried it through every battle, through every world. And when I rose high enough to make choices, I chose this. I chose to come back. Her breath trembled. Tears welled in her eyes around them. The elders whispered angrily, but their voices seemed distant. For Lyra, the chamber was gone. The world was gone. Only he remained, but their reunion was not without shadow. A younger elder rose, his voice sharp as a blade. Do you see? This was always about her. The human did not come for Sarilith, he came for his childish bond with a girl. This is not loyalty, it is weakness. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some nodded, others shook their heads. But Lyra's face burned. With anger, she turned to the council, her voice fierce. You call it weakness? He saved us while you argued. He risked everything while you hid behind your pride. If this is weakness, then it is stronger than all your strength. The elder flinched at her defiance. His mouth opened to reply, but Adrian raised a hand. His eyes glowed with restrained fury. Do not speak of her that way. She is the reason I remembered, the reason I kept my word. If you cannot see the strength in that, then you are already lost. Silence fell. The chamber seemed to tremble with the weight of his words. The elders looked away, ashamed, yet unwilling to admit defeat. Lyra's heart pounded. She felt his. Gaze again, steady, unbroken, she whispered. Adrian, the war is not over, is it? He shook his head slowly. No. This was only the beginning. The Empire will not forgive this defeat. They will return with greater force, and when they do, Sarilith will stand at the crossroads, either as prey or as an ally. The words chilled her, but also filled her with resolve. She lifted her chin, her voice steady. Then I will not let us be prey. His lips curved into the faintest smile, pride flickering in his eyes. Then you are braver than all your elders. For the first time in years, she felt the weight in her heart ease. The boy she remembered had grown into a man who carried the strength of the worlds. But beneath the scars and the uniform, he was still Adrian, still the one who had promised her he would return. As the chamber fell into uneasy silence, Adrian turned back to the elders, his voice iron once more. I will not force you, but Earth does not abandon its promises. Our fleets will remain ready to fight. The choice is yours. Will Sarilith stand with us or fall alone? The council gave no answer, fear chaining their tongues. But Lyra knew their time of hesitation was ending. The enemy would not wait. She looked at Adrian, her heart steady, her voice low. I will stand with you. He met her gaze, and in that moment, amidst the shadows of war, their promise was no longer just between two children. It had become the bond of two worlds. The final stand. The skies above Sarilith no longer carried silence. The enemy empire had returned, their fleet larger and darker than before, stretching across the heavens like a storm without end. The people trembled as their crimson lights lit the night. The council panicked. voices breaking with fear. But this time the people no longer looked to the elders. They looked to the humans, and to Adrian. The human fleet moved into formation, engines burning like a wall of blue fire, each ship ready, each soldier waiting for the command. Adrian stood on the bridge of his flagship, his eyes fixed on the enemy. His jaw was set, his hand steady. He knew the cost of what was coming, but he also knew why he was here. The promise. Lyra stood among the humans now. She had begged the council to see reason, but they had faltered once again. So she had chosen her own path. She stood beside Adrian, her heart pounding but her eyes clear. She had no weapon, no armor, only the courage to face what was coming. "Are you afraid?" Adrian asked quietly as the battle sirens rang. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. "But I would rather be afraid and stand with you than be safe and watch my people burn." A small smile touched his lips, pride flickering in his eyes. "Then you are stronger than you know." The comms crackled as the enemy's voice echoed, cold and merciless. "Seralith will fall and humanity will fall with it. Your defiance ends today." Adrian's voice thundered back. "Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not forget. And Seralith will not stand alone." The fleets clashed. The void between the stars erupted into chaos. Crimson beams tore through space. Blue fire answered. Ships exploded, their wreckage scattering across the sky. The enemy pressed hard, their numbers overwhelming, but the humans fought with precision, moving like hunters striking prey. On the ground, the people of Seralith watched in terror and awe. The children clung to their parents, their eyes wide. They whispered prayers to the stars, prayers not to their council but to the humans who fought for them. The battle raged. Enemy warships surged toward the planet, their weapons aiming for the cities below. The council screamed for the shields to be raised, but everyone knew they would not hold long. Lyra's heart sank as she saw the red glow building. But then Adrian's voice cut through the storm. "Form a wall, push them back. No enemy touches the ground." The human fleet obeyed without hesitation. Ships surged forward, sacrificing. Formation for raw defense. They intercepted the blasts, shields flaring, hulls groaning. One human vessel took the full force of an enemy strike and shattered into fire. But their sacrifice held the line. Lyra gripped the railing of the bridge, tears filling her eyes. "They fight without fear," she whispered. Adrian's gaze hardened. "They fight because Earth remembers. Because a promise, no matter how small, is worth the blood it takes to keep it." The enemy unleashed their flagship, a monstrous vessel dwarfing the others. Its weapons glowed brighter than the sun's. Every shot ripped through space, tearing holes in human lines. The fleet staggered. For a moment it seemed the tide would turn. Adrian's hand clenched into a fist. "All ships, target their flagship. We end this now." The humans surged, their weapons focusing on the giant. Blue fire rained down, cutting into its armor, but the beast fought back. Entire sections of the human fleet went dark under its fury. Lyra's heart hammered. She could not breathe. And then Adrian turned to her, his voice quiet, almost gentle. "Lyra, if I fall, remember this. The promise was not just mine. It belongs to all of humanity. You will never be forgotten." Her eyes burned with tears. She shook her head. "No, you will not fall. You can't." But he had already given the order. His flagship charged forward, engines blazing. The enemy flagship turned its fury toward him. Their beams clashed in the void, the light so bright it blinded the watchers below. The bridge shook. Alarms screamed. Lyra held onto the railing as sparks flew. Adrian stood firm, his voice calm. "As steel, fire everything." The humans unleashed their full might. A storm of energy tore through the enemy vessel. Its shields shattered. Flames ripped through its hull. With a final thunderous explosion, the monstrous flagship broke apart, its remains scattering across the stars like dying embers. For a moment, silence returned. Then cheers erupted, on the ground, in the streets, on the ships. Voices rose in triumph. The enemy fleet, broken and leaderless, scattered into the void. Humanity had stood and the promise had been kept. Lyra collapsed to her knees, sobbing with relief. The battle was over. The sky burned with wreckage. but Sarilith still stood. She turned to Adrian, her voice breaking. "You did it. You kept your word." Adrian's face softened. The steel in his eyes gave way to warmth. He knelt beside her, his voice low. "I told you once. I would come back for you, and I always will." She reached for his hand, her fingers trembling. In that moment, amidst the wreckage of war, she understood. His promise had never been just about her. It had become a symbol, a bond between two worlds, between humanity and Sarilith. As the human fleet held their place above the planet, guardians in the night, the people of Sarilith lifted their eyes to the stars with new hope. No longer were humans a distant rumor of power and fire. They were allies, protectors, and friends, and, for Lyra, as she stood beside Adrian, the boy who had once saved her, the man who had returned as a commander, she knew the truth. The promise that began in the ashes of her childhood had now reshaped the fate of a world. And in the silence after the storm, she whispered, her voice steady at last. The promise was never forgotten.